Let's get this out of the way real quick. As opposed to the quote-unquote new Ariel, I'm not opposed to Tinkerbell being black. Tinkerbell, in general, aside from her likeness in the original Disneyverse, unlike Ariel, is in the public domain, has been depicted to look differently throughout the years, and can look like anything given that she never had a legitimate look. As long as she is tiny, has wings, has fairy dust, and glows, I do not care what race plays her.
But Ariel has also been depicted differently throughout the years and doesn't have a legitimate look either.
Correction. The original Little Mermaid can look like anything. Ariel cannot because she's an original character. If you want to hear me rant about this further, check out this video, because the current video is not the place for that. The point I'm getting at is that my problems with modern day Tinkerbell has nothing to do with her casting. Alright? Alright. Hello everyone, my name's Aloubell, and I don't like how modern Disney is treating Tinkerbell. Disney Plus's Peter Pan and Wendy came out recently, and while I refuse to see it, I have seen some trailers as well as some clips of the movie. I've both heard and seen some not great things about our little ball of sunshine. The first point being that said ball of sunshine, well, doesn't shine, or glow if you want to be more specific. The movie itself already looks like it marinated a bit too long in the swamp waters from Minecraft, specifically the swamp at night, but they had to go and do my girl Tink dirty by taking away one of her defining physical characteristics. Why does her glow look like a candle is dying? Oh wait, that's giving it too much credit, since a dying candle actually has more glow than her. She's supposed to have a brilliant glow, but they made her dull. How do you mess that up? I heard that either the director or someone else in production didn't make her glow bright because they couldn't find a realistic reason for her to be able to glow. I'm sorry, this is the story about a boy forever stuck as a preteen who can fly using fairy dust from a world with mermaids. We left realism a long time ago. Tinkerbell can glow because magic. Full stop. Putting the glow aside, can we talk about how, characteristically, they made her super bland and inconsequential? It appears like she's a little spicy at first towards Wendy, but quickly gets over it. Because, you know, we can't have girls fighting over a guy or having a girl get jealous and do bad things these days. It's completely unrealistic and insulting to women to give them flaws. I guess. I don't know. But anyway, Tinkerbell then proceeds to just react to stuff and feel bad sometimes that Peter Pan doesn't and can't listen to her. As in, he literally doesn't understand what she's saying. He barely seems to care or value her as a person, which just seems wrong. Like, why is she even with him if he doesn't respect her, nor is he able to understand what she says? The movie doesn't seem to give a good reason for why those two are together other than tradition. Peter Pan always has Tinkerbell with him. They're just checking off a box. We don't usually need a why for why they're together, as their respect and bond always seemed apparent, but with how bad the situation is between them in this movie, you kind of have to question it because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Considering Tinkerbell forms a bit of a bond with Wendy, which is done poorly and, again, is mostly inconsequential to the plot of the movie, then why would Tink stay in Neverland with Peter, who doesn't respect her enough to even care to understand what she's saying, rather than stay with Wendy in England? At worst, you could say that Tink feels bad for Peter and doesn't want to leave him alone, and at best, because of how many unjustified years they've spent together. Regardless of the quality of time spent together, they formed a bond by proximity. In other words, they spent so much time together that they couldn't help but get attached to each other and can't comfortably separate from one another. The fact that the reasoning is unclear in the case of this movie is not very good storytelling. At the very least, and this was a missed opportunity, the movie should have had Peter Pan and Tinkerbell reconcile and have him actively try to understand her. By the end of the movie, they should be trying to strengthen their relationship, especially since, spoiler, The lost kids all decide to stay in London with Wendy and her family. But from what I understand, Peter and Tinkerbell don't do anything close to that. All of that being said, in Peter Pan and Wendy, Tinkerbell's main purpose seems to be to distribute fairy dust. And that's it. In the original movie, and I will really only be referring to the 1953 Disney movie and its affiliated stories in this review, by the way. In the original movie, Tinkerbell is a jealous, vindictive, sassy, fun-loving, scheming, hot-headed, possessive, entitled, and insecure fairy who is majorly loyal to Peter. She not only attempts to get Wendy killed, without a glimmer of guilt, but was easily manipulated by Captain Hook into giving up the Lost Boys' hideout due to her insecurities. She had a huge presence, and you never forgot she was there. Without being able to talk to where the audience could understand, her feelings and motivations were easily understood through how she was animated, facial expressions, and body language, and in her actions. Her bond with Peter is also quite apparent by how much she adores him and wants to keep him to herself, at least from other females. More importantly, Peter can understand her, and very clearly cares about her as well. Tinkerbell was a glowing ball of spicy chaos, and I enjoyed every moment of it. I love original Tink. In fact, she's probably one of my favorite Disney characters. She had major flaws and did things I don't condone, but she's a fun character with an aesthetically pleasing design and a big personality.
But Aloe, if you prefer that depiction of Tinkerbell, then what about...
We're gonna get to that later because, trust me, I have some words to say about that. But before I get on with my next point, if you're enjoying this video, then show me you believe in magic by hitting the like button and subscribe for more reviews, rants, and rewrites. Follow me in my socials in the description, and be sure to join our community Discord, the Bell Tower, link also in the description. If you're still watching at this point, put a fairy emoji in the comments. Thank you! In the 2002 sequel to the 1953 film titled Peter Pan Return to Neverland, which happens to be my favorite Disney sequel of all time, and is low-key better than the original movie, and yes, I will make a video talking about it, Tinkerbell actually goes through a believable character arc that I super appreciate. Spoilers for that movie if you haven't seen it yet, but in the movie, Tinkerbell starts out just as spicy as she was in the original movie, disliking Wendy's daughter Jane when she thinks the girl is getting too close to Peter, and, on brand for her character, tries to kill Jane. Unsuccessfully since Peter saved her, but the attempt was still made. And for a while, Tink remains in this state of frustration towards Jane, just wanting the girl to leave and especially not appreciating Jane's attitude towards Peter. Jane, being the complete opposite of her mother in that she abandoned her childhood whimsy a long time ago, gives in to the frustration of her situation and announces that she doesn't believe in fairies. For the uninitiated, in Peter Pan lore, if a person or people say that they don't believe in fairies, fairies die. Because of Jane's declaration, Tinkerbell gets really weak and progressively loses her life throughout the movie. Special shout out to Peter's concern for Tink and him taking care of her and desperately trying to get her to survive. Things happen in the movie that get Jane to start appreciating being a kid and having fun with Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, which leads to Jane feeling super guilty about a mistake that she made. What's worse, Peter tells Jane that Tinkerbell is dying because of her. Jane frantically goes to find a deceased Tinkerbell and is utterly distraught at the consequences of her actions and how they stole this fairy's life. Jane, in her sorrow, apologizes to Tink and takes her body, laying her comfortably on the bed as she weeps bitterly for her. Now that it is firmly established that Jane does in fact believe in fairies, after all, she wouldn't cry over someone who didn't exist, Tinkerbell is revived. Upon seeing that Jane truly cares about her, Tinkerbell is filled with nothing but adoration towards the girl and considers her a friend. Their bond even grows so close that Jane can understand Tinkerbell from this point on. You hear that, folks? Return to Neverland handled this plot point better, way better than Peter Pan and Wendy ever could. And let's just say that Tinkerbell has a much better attitude for the rest of the movie. Return to Neverland, that is, even when she's reunited with a certain person towards the end of the movie. All of this is to say that I love the original Tink, and I love her personality and her character growth. She left a huge impression not only on me, but on Disney as a whole. She was so popular that not only did she appear on promotional Disney material and logos outside of Peter Pan, but she also was an official Disney princess for a while. And she got her own spin-off movies. And now we circle back to what I said I was going to talk about. The Tinkerbell movies, or Pixie Hollow movies if you want to call them that, are a series of 6 movies and a couple specials that were released from 2008 to 2014 that go into the origin of Tinkerbell and the adventure she went on with her friends from her home of Pixie Hollow. The movies show how she was born, how and why she's a Tinker Fairy, and even some other surprising things about her. Honestly, the only thing it never got into was how she met Peter, which was the biggest sin from this franchise. Unfortunately, the studio that produced the movies closed down before they had the chance to tell that story. Alas. Before I get into my problems with this series, let me preface this by saying that I really liked this film series. Each movie was super entertaining and the characters super endearing. I also love how the movies brought so much more color and life to Neverland, explaining the rules of fairies in their world. My favorite of the movies is the final one, The Legend of the Neverbeast. The ending always makes me cry. So the critique I'm about to give comes from the perspective of a fan. I don't like how Tinkerbell is depicted in this series. For the most part, she's super sweet, understanding, and is a team player. Sure, she's a little stubborn, and the writers eventually remember that she's supposed to have a temper problem and gets annoyed easily, but this all is super scaled down compared to her initial depiction in 1953. She's just too nice. And I get it. She's now the main character of children's films, and we can't have our main character attempting to kill or do something bad to anyone the moment she feels threatened that something she is entitled to gets taken or denied from her. We don't want children imitating original Tink's behaviors. I get it. And in universe, she's still pretty new to the world, so you could make the argument that she simply hasn't fully developed those glaring flaws yet. Maybe something happens in her history that massively shifts her personality and motives. But something tells me that that didn't happen. I don't see any scenario that would turn Pixie Hollow Tink into 1953 Tink. Even if she did meet Peter and fall in love, I don't see her turning into a jerk nor abandoning her friends and responsibilities in Pixie Hollow. This Tink just simply is not this Tink. Pixie Hollow Tink is nice and fine as a main character. Honestly, if she wasn't supposed to be Tinkerbell, I wouldn't mind her. But since she is supposed to be the same Tink, it bothers me. Maybe not as much as it used to, but it still does to a degree. Fortunately, the Tinkerbell movies graced us with a character who basically embodies everything that 1953 Tink used to be. I am talking about Vidya, the fast-flying fairy. Although she does lack the murderous intent, Vidya was so super similar to original Tinkerbell that I enjoyed having her around. It's almost like the writers knew that original Tink was charming in her jerkiness, that they just had to keep that characterization in some form, so they created Vidya to be a rival for Tink. Vidya is my favorite of the Pixie Hollow fairies, not only because she reminds me of a more child-friendly version of spicy 1953 Tink, but she also, spoiler, has a redemption arc. Frequent viewers of my channel know just how much I love those. And even after she is redeemed, Vidya still keeps her sassiness and spiciness. She's just on the side of good now. At the end of the day, all of my points are to say that I really just miss the old Tinkerbell and how much I appreciate how much thought and care went into her character for the initial 2 animated Disney movies. And I also want to quickly say that while I don't care for Pixie Hollow Tink in the same way that I do the 1953 Tink, I do still like her more than Peter Pan and Wendy Tink, because Pixie Hollow Tink actually has a good character and does things. Tinkerbell doesn't have to be spicy or be a jerk to be enjoyable. At least I don't think so. She just has to be a good, well-written character with a reason for existing in the story other than just the perks of her abilities. Of all the Tinkerbells I've seen depicted on shows or movies, I just personally prefer the original Disney Tinkerbell from the animated 1953 and 2002 movies. In any case, what do you guys think? How did you like Tinkerbell in the recent Peter Pan and Wendy film? How do you like 1953 Tinkerbell? Which Tinkerbell in all of Peter Pan media is your favorite? Comment below and let's get this conversation started. And remember, I'm the artistic Aloubell, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe for more reviews, rants, and rewrites. But as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.